Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
It's good to be here. It's hard to believe that 17 years ago, almost to the day, I think within a week, that Reverend Sonny flew to Kentucky at the end of an ice storm and met with about a dozen people in a living room in Paris to talk about what would become Ahava Center for Spiritual Living. And Ron and Nancy were in that living room. And so it's exciting to see what's happened. So thank you all for being here. And this month, our topic that you've been hearing about is called Embracing the Edge. And our topic for today is on the edge of possible. And what that asks us to contemplate is what would be possible if we really believed anything was possible. If we got rid of the idea that some things are impossible, what would happen? And we're also asked to awaken our collective imagination and daring to believe in a world shaped by love, justice, compassion, and loving kindness. That's simple, right? We can all get there. But how do we embrace the edge so that we can move beyond the known and create a world that works for all? And really, what does that mean? Like, who gets to decide what works for everybody? Right? Because if you ask different people, what works is different. And so if we really work at a world based on love and compassion and justice, what does that look like? And here's the thing, so often in New Thought, we get stuck on the idea that if we do our internal work, it's enough, right? Thoughts and prayers. But the truth is, it's not enough. We can't just pray and think good thoughts, right? Kim couldn't play her guitar if she just sat around and thought good thoughts. She has to practice too, right? Right? The Music Man was fiction. We can't just think that we can play the tuba and play it. Right?
No way. You mean that 10,000 hours is for real?
Yeah. But I'm here to tell you again that that's just thinking and praying isn't enough. We have to do something. So especially now in this current climate, we might express dismay or we might act outrage, but expressing outrage is an action, and it won't create lasting change. And we also have this myth that Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, taught that, right? That we just have to pray and everything will change, right? But he never said that. He never said that it was enough just to do our inner work. And in a radio show in 1950 that happened just as we were getting into the Korean War, Holmes on a radio show called Spiritual Armament said, we should not only pray, we should act, each contributing the best they have to offer to the common purpose, each willing to make any sacrifice necessary, not a sacrifice reluctantly made, but as one who offers all they have for a greater purpose. One in a certain sense selfish, for we all desire self-preservation, but the other in the greater sense, because there can be no individual self-preservation without the self-preservation of all. And so to create lasting change and the preservation of all, we have to get out of our own way, because we get stuck in the little self. We get stuck in, I can't do it, who am I? And so we have to surrender our notion of who we think we are. And the surrender I'm talking about is not capitulation. It's not giving up. It's not being forced to give over something to someone else. It's surrender in the sense of giving up the fight against being who you really are. Giving up the fight against being your full, true, beautiful, messy, complex, complicated self. This is a self that exists beyond our roles, beyond our perceived notion of who we think we should be, and who we think others think we should be, right? Sometimes we get stuck in trying to be who we think other people think we should be. And that's a losing proposition, because we can never live up to the expectations of other people. And for many of us, it's not easy to recognize our true selves or to even live that way, sometimes because of internalized shame from the way we were brought up. Sometimes it's because of external cultural or social factors, but there are lots of things that get in the way. And so the first step in really surrendering to who we are is to get honest. We have to get honest with ourselves about who we have been, who we are now, and who we want to be. And so there's a class that we teach called Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. There's a meditation that ends with two questions. Who am I, and what do I really want? And it asks students to answer these questions from a place of having let go of all of their roles and labels, and to answer who I am and what do I really want. If I just surrender into the knowingness that the divine, the universal cosmic isness, as I like to call it, is all there is. And just take a minute to ponder this. How might your life change if you always live from the place of knowing that there is no other, that we all are, that we're all one? There's no stranger. What if we really live knowing, as Joan Chittister, a former Catholic nun, so beautifully writes, that the divine is the energy of the universe, the light in every soul, the eternal kaleidoscope of possibility that surrounds us in nature. The face of God is imprinted on the face of every one we see. You see, if we really surrender to our true selves, then we have to cease doing those things that create separation between ourselves and others. We have to fully embrace oneness, because when we feel separate from the divine, it shows up in feeling separate from others and ourselves. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't see difference. Some people argue, oh, it's all one, I don't see difference. That's not oneness. That's privilege masquerading as oppression, right? When I say I don't see your difference, it means I'm telling you that unless you're just like me, you're not okay. And so true oneness means that we celebrate each person for all of who we are and each living creature for exactly who it is. Here's the thing, though. In Science of Mind and New Thought more broadly, we're taught that we have to do this internally first, that we can't love others until we fully, completely, unreservedly love ourselves. And while this may work in theory, it's a big challenge. There are very few of us out there who love all of ourselves completely. And if our only standard for being able to love others is to first love ourselves completely and unreservedly, then we might never be able to reach that. Is there anybody in this room that loves every single bit and part of themselves? Well, there's always one liar in the crowd. So here's the thing. I believe really that we can learn to love ourselves and to surrender to who we are through loving others. Right? So often we can see the good in others that we can't see in ourselves. And so loving others really teaches us to love ourselves. And so it's through loving others and through embracing our discomfort rather than running from it. So when we get to that edge, if we're going to leap into what's possible, we have to embrace our discomfort. The ability to look beyond ourselves and see the divine in all is the only path to lasting change in the world. And this often requires a leap of faith, a willingness to let go of attachment to outcome. How many are willing to do that? And to let go of the fear of the consequences of our actions. And it also requires holding true to our vision of a better world, regardless of what happens. And a couple of weeks ago when Reverend Sunny talked, she mentioned the Buddhist monks who were walking for peace. And since she was here, that walk has ended. The monks have dispersed back to where they came from. But I want to spend a little time talking about that, because I think this embodies this idea of taking a leap of faith when we get to that edge of what's possible. 24 Theravadan Buddhist monks from all over the world, the United States, Thailand, France, I think Laos, Vietnam, came together to walk 2,300 miles from Texas to Washington, D.C. They were led by the Venerable Bhikkhu Pandakara, a monk from Fort Worth, Texas, and they set out on October 26th and arrived in Washington on February 10th, 108 days. They walked in faith and held true to their vision. When they started the walk, they didn't know how they would get back to Texas after it was over. Many mornings they set out without knowing where they would stay that night. They walked through heat, cold, rain, snow, ice. They walked with bloody feet. One monk said that in the first week of walking, he lost all of his toenails. They walked while sick, holding fast to their vision that by spreading a message of peace and mindfulness, they could create a positive ripple in the world. They didn't do this to gain fame or notoriety. They didn't do it for money. They did it, as Venerable Bhikkhu Pandakara said, we walk not to protest, but to awaken the peace that already lives within each of us. The walk for peace is a simple yet meaningful reminder that unity and kindness begin within each of us and can radiate outward to families, communities, and societies as a whole. And many people followed their journey on Facebook, where they posted daily updates and they broadcast peace talks. The monks encouraged loving kindness and mindfulness, asking people to be fully present in this now moment. And people who followed it were invited to write down every day, today is going to be my peaceful day. And not just write it, but to say it and to come back to that. Take a moment to think about this. How many of us in this room would be willing to set out on a journey, not knowing if you'd be able to get home at the end of it, not knowing where your food would come from each day, relying on the kindness of others for all your needs? Could you stand the discomfort of walking barefoot on asphalt? Could you hold fast to your vision of a better future, forsaking anything else to see that vision manifested? Could you hold fast to your vision knowing it might not be manifested in your lifetime? Could you stay committed to making every day your peaceful day? And Bhikkhu Panyakara, this is not his first walk. He did a 110-day or 123-day walk through India. And the first week of that walk, he thought he couldn't make it. He thought he might die. And he said, that's all right. I'm not attached to this life. If I have to die for this vision to be manifest, I'm willing to do that. And how many of us are willing enough to die for what we believe in? You know, there was a Episcopal bishop in New Hampshire who told the Episcopal priests in his diocese, if we really want change, we have to be willing to die to stand up for what's right. And how many of us would do that? And right now we're living in a time of great upheaval, when it appears as if the American experiment in democracy might be over. A time when the paradoxes of our country are being made visible in a way that makes them impossible to ignore. How do we hold fast to a vision of a better world in times like these? How do we walk in faith like the monks? John O'Donohue, who was an Irish poet and writer, we heard a poem by him at the beginning. He wrote, sometimes when we look out, the world seems so dark. And he wrote this in the early 2000s, but it's appropriate now. War, violence, hunger, and misery seem to abound. They make us anxious and helpless. We live in times when the call to fully and critically aware citizenship could not be more urgent. But when we yield to helplessness, we strengthen the hand of those who would destroy. When we choose indifference, we betray our world. But when you take back your power and choose to see the possibilities for healing and transformation, your creativity awakens and flows to become an active force for renewal and encouragement in the world. This is a huge force field that opens and directs itself toward transformation. It's a field that opens when we focus our intention and direct it. Bhikkhu Panyakara spoke about this. Not everyone was kind to the monks. They were followed by one man who carried a sign through Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, and told the monks repeatedly they were going to hell if they didn't accept Jesus as their savior. And they would simply respond by saying, okay. They just responded with kindness and non-attachment. And Bhikkhu Panyakara reminded them not to take it on. And he said it when he spoke at the end of the journey, when people throw rocks at you, take those rocks and paint something lovely on them and put them in your garden. If they throw lemons at you, make lemonade. If people throw bitter melons at you, cut them up and make soup, because bitter melon soup is known to help diabetes. It's not about denying reality, folks. It's not about sitting there and saying, all I see is goodness, I'm just going to ignore the world. It's about looking at reality, seeing it for what it is, and holding on to a vision of the reality you want to see. And I spoke about the fact that the United States is a paradox, right? We have a document that says all men are created equal, but that document was written by men who believed they could own other people. If we believe in freedom and equality for all, that document was written by men who thought only white property-owning men should vote, not men of color, not any kind of women. So we have these paradoxes. We have to honor them and own them if we want to do something different. So we hold on to that vision of the reality we want to see. And how did the monks do it? Step by step. That journey of 2,300 miles was accomplished one step at a time, one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, one breath at a time. Each step, each moment, a chance to be peace, to be loving kindness, compassion. We don't know what the future holds, but we can, like the monks, minute by minute, be present and be love. And Judaism, the tradition I was raised in, which I still practice, teaches that it is the duty of each of us to practice tikkun olam, or to repair the world in any small way we can. We don't have to do grand things, right? We don't have to make grand discoveries, but we must do something. And in the Jewish text, Pirkei Avot, it's written, "It is not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you at liberty to neglect it." We don't know what effect our actions will have in the long run. We may not finish the work, but we must not neglect it. Remember, while we like to focus on singular personalities like Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Mandela, Malcolm X, they did not act alone. It is not incumbent on each of us to lead a movement, but if we each can do one small thing every day to help repair the world, the cumulative effect can be transformational. Every time we remember that today is my peaceful day and react with love and kindness rather than hate, we make a difference. And Wendell Berry talks about this idea of doing good in the world, not just for ourselves, but for the world itself. And he writes, "We have lived our lives by the assumption that what was good for us was good for the world. We have been wrong. We must change our lives so that what is good for the world will be good for us. And that requires that we make an effort to learn what is good for it." The time has come to live our lives in the place of doing what is good for the world. We are part of an interconnected web of life. Each of us is made up of things that are not us, right? Thich Nhat Hanh talks about this. We all inter-are. You are made up of stars. You're made up of the breath that someone breathed out 1,000 years ago. We're all made up of different things. And so when we're conscious of that, life can change. And I want to turn again to the words of Joan Chittister. Consciousness of the presence of the divine once it comes changes the way we look at the world in which we live. Then we begin to realize the fundamental truth of life. Some things are difficult, yes, but nothing is useless. Everything we do is preparing us to embrace the God of the universe who has already absorbed us into it. What would happen if you treated everyone you meet as the face of the divine? What if you treat yourself as the face of the divine? To do all of this, it's important to be mindful and practice loving kindness. Take the leap. And I want to leave you today with some words from Bhikkhu Panyakara. Today is going to be our peaceful day. May we practice mindfulness throughout the day, being mindful of our breath, our thoughts, our words, and our actions. In this awareness, we find the stillness of peace. In this presence, we discover the warmth of loving kindness and compassion. Every moment is a fresh opportunity to return to ourselves and be fully present. We're all walking this path together. Let us walk mindfully through this day, supporting one another with every step we take toward peace. And he announced 10 vows, which are similar to the Centers for Spiritual Living Global Vision, but I think if we all live these vows daily, something would shift. With hope, may every nation live in safety, stability, and dignity, free from fear, chaos, and suffering. May every person be heard, respected, and protected, regardless of their race, their background, their faith, the language they speak. May fear be replaced with understanding, and may misunderstanding never again be a reason for violence. May hatred be transformed into compassion, so pain is met with care instead of blame. May peace exist not only in words and speeches, but in laws, policies, communities, and daily life. May true strength be measured not by control, force, or weapons, but by how we protect one another, especially our children and the vulnerable. May progress always walk together with morality, and may growth never be built on human suffering. Dialogue be chosen over confrontation and listening over judgment. May people find peace within their own hearts. May the path to peace require no enemies, only human beings returning to morality, to responsibility, and one another. So I ask you today, are you willing to take the leap? Are you willing to dive off that edge, allowing faith to hold you fast to your vision? Let's go into prayer. And so today, by way of prayer, I'm going to do something a little different than our normal 5-step prayer. And if it feels right to you, you can repeat this silently to yourself. In this moment, may I be free from resentment and conflict. May I be free from physical suffering. May I be free from mental suffering. May I be free from danger, and may my body and mind be at peace. May all beings everywhere be free from resentment and conflict. May all beings be free from physical suffering. May all beings be free from mental suffering. And may all beings be free from danger, and may their bodies and minds be at peace. And so we simply know that in this moment, we take that in. We take that in as we know there is only one life, one essence, one universal cosmic isness. There is no other. There is nothing outside of it. And in this moment, I know it as love, as peace, as loving kindness, as compassion. And I know that whatever is the truth of the one is the truth of me, is the truth of each beloved hearing my voice. That each of us is that same love and kindness, compassion, goodness, grace, all that it is we are. And knowing that I speak this word for this community, knowing that it embraces and expresses the love that it is, that even in this moment of change, there is goodness, there is magic afoot. That this is the day that we have made, and we rejoice in it. For the goodness of the one is the goodness of all. We know that we are here for a greater purpose, to release those sparks of holiness in the world, to repair that which is broken, to pave the way for others, to take one step at a time toward goodness, to take one step at a time toward loving compassion. I claim this, and I know this for each of us. And for knowing this, for speaking my word, I give great thanks, and I simply release this word into that perfect action of the law, knowing it is so. And so it is.